Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're going to dive into a pretty revolutionary technique that lets scientists see the invisible. Seriously. It's a tool that can unlock secrets hidden deep down at the atomic level, and it turns what looks like total chaos into crystal clear understanding.
So let's kick things off with a question that really drives so much of modern science, right? When you can actually take a picture of individual atoms, what secrets are hiding inside all of that visual noise? It's kind of like staring at a secret code. And for the longest time, we just didn't have the right key to decipher it. Okay, so this right here is our puzzle for today. It's an image from a super powerful microscope showing two different materials that have been grown together atom by atom. And, to the naked eye, it just looks like a mess. It's static, it's got these faint overlapping patterns. How in the world is anyone supposed to make sense of this?
To solve a mystery like this one, you need a special tool. I want you to think of it like a detective's magnifying glass, but instead of fingerprints, it looks for atomic patterns, and it's called digital Darkfield. So what exactly is digital Darkfield? Well, the absolute best way to think about it is like a digital tuning fork. You know how a tuning fork vibrates at one very specific frequency? This technique lets scientists pick a very specific atomic pattern, a certain rhythm or spacing between atoms, and then they can basically ping the entire image with it. And just like magic, the parts of the image that resonate with that exact pattern, they light right up, showing you exactly where they are. And the process? It's actually super elegant. First, you start with your messy, complex image. Then, the computer generates something called a pattern map. You can think of it as a cheat sheet of all the different repetitive rhythms that are hiding in there. From that map, you get to select just one specific pattern you're interested in. And here's the cool part. The software then generates a brand new image where only the spots with that exact pattern are highlighted. What was invisible suddenly pops out.
Look, this is a huge leap forward. In the old days, scientists would try to do this by hand, physically sticking tiny little metal plates inside a multi-million-dollar microscope. It was slow, it was frustratingly difficult, and it didn't leave a lot of room for creativity. But this new digital way, it's a total game changer. It's fast, it's flexible, and it gives you a level of power and precision that was honestly just a dream before.
All right, so we've got our tool. Let's put it to the test. Let's open up our first case file, that messy image we started with.
The big question here is actually pretty simple, but it's incredibly important. We've got two different materials here, copper oxide and silicon, layered on top of each other. But in that noisy image, where's the boundary line? How are these different crystal structures actually fitting together?
And here it is again, the before shot. On the right, you've got these silicon pyramids, and on the left, there's a layer of copper oxide. But it's almost impossible to see the structure clearly, especially with all that visual noise from just preparing the sample. It's just a jumble, right?
And boom! This is the after. This shows you the power of this tool perfectly. Using digital Darkfield, the scientists were able to isolate the exact repeating pattern of the silicon atoms and color them blue. Then they did the same for the copper oxide, coloring it red. All of a sudden, the chaos has perfect order. You can clearly see the blue silicon pyramids and these red columns of copper oxide that grew right on top.
So what's the big deal? Well, the analysis didn't just find the copper oxide. It found a very specific column of copper oxide that was tilted at a unique 4-degree angle compared to the silicon it was sitting on. That is a tiny but absolutely critical detail that was completely buried in the noise. And now, it's perfectly clear.
Okay, that was cool. But let's take it up a notch and move on to our next case. This one's even stranger. We're not just finding crystals anymore, we're about to identify a structure that, according to the old rulebook, really shouldn't even exist.
Take a look at this palladium nanoparticle. The image itself looks kind of random. But when the scientists made that pattern map we talked about, they saw something that's supposed to be impossible for a single crystal, a 10-fold symmetry. Normal crystals just don't do that. So what on earth is happening inside this tiny little particle?
The answer, it turns out, is just beautiful. By using digital Darkfield to pick out specific patterns from that weird 10-fold map, these incredibly elegant shapes just appeared. It turns out the particle isn't one single crystal at all. It's 20 tiny crystals all twinned together in this incredibly complex arrangement. And those bow tie and butterfly shapes, they're the footprints of these different crystal groups.
The tool just pulled back the curtain on this hidden masterpiece.
And the crazy part? The speed. The author of the paper on this actually said that this entire complex discovery, it happened in the time it takes for a single calculation. We're talking a fraction of a second. Trying to figure this out with the old methods would have taken forever, if it was even possible at all.
All right, for our final case, we're going to push this even further. We're not just finding patterns anymore. We're going to use this tool to map something truly mind-bending. The invisible forces that are literally stretching and squeezing the atoms themselves.
This is where it gets really, really cool. A crystal isn't a perfectly rigid thing. It can be stretched, it can be compressed by forces inside it. Digital Darkfield is so incredibly precise that it can detect the tiniest deviations, tiny little imperfections from a perfect pattern. And by mapping those imperfections, it can create a map of the invisible stress acting on the atoms.
The technical term for this is lattice strain, and we're talking about measuring shifts in atom positions on the scale of picometers. That's a trillionth of a meter. It's an almost impossibly small distance. But essentially, Digital Darkfield can create a color-coded map that shows you exactly where material is being pulled apart or squeezed together, all at the atomic level.
So, check this out. This is the final reveal. The image on the left is a standard Darkfield image. It just shows us where a certain crystal pattern is. But the image on the right, that's the strain map. The different colors here aren't showing a different material, they're showing the direction and the intensity of stress. We are literally seeing the invisible forces that are holding this entire structure together. It's amazing. Okay, let's zoom out for a second. What does all of this add up to? Digital Darkfield isn't just some neat trick. It is a fundamentally new way of looking at the very building blocks of our world.
So let's just recap what we've seen. We saw how this technique can slice through visual noise to find one single tilted crystal. We saw how it can solve a paradox, revealing that an impossible particle was actually a beautiful collection of twins. And most incredibly, we saw how it lets us map the invisible stress and strain that holds materials together. This isn't just about faster analysis. It's a powerful bridge between the physical stuff we see in a microscope and the deep mathematical patterns that actually govern it all.
And that kind of leaves us with this final amazing thought. For centuries, we've been limited by what our eyes and even our best instruments can physically see. But tools like this are giving us brand new senses. So, if we can now visualize the very forces that bind atoms together, what other fundamental secrets about how our universe works are just hiding out there, in plain sight, waiting for us to build the right tool to finally see them? Thanks for watching.